Okay, let's see if this works. We're having camera issues. I'm still. Hi, I'm Clifford Bates, and welcome to my messing around on a Friday afternoon. This is for August 25th, 2023. Hi there. Okay, no one's here. I don't think I'm just doing this like it always is, but most people will see this on after the thing and not live. So maybe there'll be someone live. I don't know. We're starting at a normal time, which is 6 p.m. Central European time, but in America, East Coast Standard Time, it's around noon. So it's a Friday afternoon over there. Welcome. We started earlier, and we had a glitch, a big glitch. What happened was when I started out, all of a sudden we went pink again. And I think there's going to have another problem. It's going to probably go pink right halfway through this stream. So I'm kind of a little nervous about that. So like I did last time, we could get near the end anyway. This is because I'm using my laptop and not my office computer. Because I'm on the road again. Yeah, right. Willie Nelson on the road again, right? This is, I'm visiting with my wife, visiting her mother. I've been therefore not really doing videos. I've been have particular, so therefore you're seeing videos, but these were the ones I kind of pre-recorded and did. I kind of did a lot of work before my trip, and that's why you're getting the videos that you're getting. In fact, we're gonna have this weird thing. I'm doing 2 videos a day because I'm doing both. I think it's not this week, but next week, I think it'll be 2 videos a day because I'm doing both. Well, I think it's today. It starts out with I'm not sure. It's going to be soon, 2 videos a day because of voila. I'm doing the Plato's Republic Book 1 thing. I promised I would be doing. So that's what I've been up to in that sense. I've been taking like a week, last week and this week. Last Friday I did the video, and I had a meeting on Saturday with the reading group that I participate with. Which we finish up Aristophanes, the frog. Sorry, the frog, not the wasp, the frogs. And this week we're going to be starting the birds. That's nothing. What I'm doing. It's one of my things I do. I'm talking about what I did this last week, right? What I did and what I things. So I've been recording. I haven't been not recording. I've not been doing this. So therefore, the recordings that you're seeing have been stuff that I've done earlier and I have posted. We had a kind of, what I'm doing. I'm kind of relaxing, recovering from the semester. I'm waiting. I have to be back on September 1st. There's going to be an exam, a resit exam at the university for things, but also a student who was sick, who had medical excuse, who had a medical document that I can give them a resit exam on their test that they missed. And this will be September 1st, so I'm going to be at the university at September 1st. I also have a student who just gave me out of the blue, her BA thesis. It was just today, and she popped the email saying, "I'm going to get you back tonight about this." And it's like, oh God, it's less than 5 days to the deadline. How can anyone seriously think that if I have to give major corrections and I just couldn't do it today because like I said, I had to do this. I have computer issues. The computer's kind of fighting with me a little bit, and this didn't have time. And I was we were moving around and doing things, and I was just answering her on my tablet. It was like, how can you can't read a paper on the tablet. You can read the paper, but you can't look at it seriously and edit it and make suggestions and put comments on it. You have to have and the laptop is okay, but I need to have an office or someplace to do it, not just do it on a flight. Here, this is a table in the living room, my mother-in-law's living room, in the corner of the room, okay? It's not like I have a place to work and do this. So I feel a little frustrated in that sense. And then I think, so therefore I have to read her paper. This Saturday, Sunday, I will set aside, I'll find a corner and I will go look at it, read it and comment and send her stuff back. But I feel kind of pressured that the deadline is the 31st, and that she has to submit it has to be done through all corrections, all done, has to be done 5 days. It's like, it's unreasonable. And I feel a little frustrated about that. Another thing is I have not really done any writing myself this week. I'm pissed off about myself. I'm kind of frozen because until I get back in September, I can't really do. I'm supposed to send something to a journal. I'm going to send it. I'm going to risk it, resending it, hoping and then realize it's a major revision and not something, and therefore they will be open to redo it, and maybe they will like it this time. Otherwise, I have to, find another place to send it to, and it's kind of frustrating. So I've been doing something like that, and it's a little irritating. I have another piece that I've written for someone, like I mentioned last week, that I have to spend some time just kind of fixing it, tweaking it, to redo it, and I'll send it to a Polish journal that might have a chance to get accepted. And then I wrote something about Dan Mahoney, about a piece about Mahoney's thing at the American Mind, that basically American Mind said, oh, we don't do one-off responses to this. Well, that's kind of what they do. So I found that kind of like, okay, but I understand the Claremonters are not going to want a student of Mel Bradford kind of, even though I'm friendly with Dan and close to Dan, I didn't like, I had problems with his essay. I think it was kind of what I call the Harvey Mansfield little bemoaning about populism. And I don't have a problem with populism. Yes, populism can be bad or good. I agree with that. As democracy can be bad or good. Democracy and populism kind of go one in hand. And there's a difference between liberalism and democracy. These are two different things, and they can cooperate, but they also cannot cooperate. And I wanted to focus on a defense of populism, how that really is defense of the people, and therefore what particular people here. And that's what my letter was. And I haven't got any, I sent it to First Things, and of course, crickets. I tried to, I used to be able to write to American. I used to know the assistant editors at American Greatness, but they were fired during a kind of coup d'etat there, right? Or kind of a rebellion that kind of was wiped out, and the big boss saw it again. And therefore, I don't really have and he's not the communicative type. It's not like there's someone who's running it. He's, the big boss who ran it, big owner boss who ran it is an absentee landlord to a great degree. And the brand actually was built by the two editors who left. And while it's still continuing, it's a husk of its former self. Yes, some of the big names are still giving stuff in it, and it's like this. But the variety and diversity in good articles, and people, even people who like me, who could maybe occasionally put something there and get a kind of a good point about something that we see isn't, now have a hard time accessing these things because it becomes an in-crowd thing. So that's what I've been doing. I've been kind of like, not accomplishing things I really want to write on, mostly because, again, I've been resting. I've been reading. What have I been reading? That's the number 2 point. Well, I've been reading. This week I read Aristophanes' The Birds. I read it in 2 different translations, and as well as the Greek. I've been looking at the Greek edition by Ian Johnson's Greek English New Translation, and Wayne Ambler's and Tom Pangol's translation. I was a student of Wayne Ambler. I had one course with him before he went to Rome at University of Dallas. We weren't close, and I wasn't. I didn't really. We did Platonic dialogues. I had a reaction to it. He was a Bloom student. He was very Bloomian. He was a Christopher Bruhl student, but influenced by Bloom. He had a kind of like, I call it when I knew him, he was typical of the kind of Bloomites with that kind of, khaki. I wear khaki pants too, but khaki pants and blue blazers, right? I'm guilty too, so I shouldn't complain. But he's a good translator. His translations on Xenophon has been outstanding, so therefore, I've been looking at the 2 translations and reading it. I listened to a version of a different translation, a really horrible translation, but it was good to do that because you could least follow. It was making me read and notice the differences between things. So that was interesting. That's a good way to read too. Hearing someone read something out loud and reading it at the same time reinforces things in your mind. It hits you at two levels. And that's what some of my attempts at YouTube have been doing, is my reading thing. Why I do the reading thing is it's read. You should read now. Of course, you see on the screen saying it's hard to read on the screen. Maybe you should do better video stuff. I mean, I said, no, I'm not gonna. You should be getting the book. You should have the book in front of you, tactile, not just reading things on screen. You should read it in your hand, forcing. This is how the mind works and how you understand and how do you engage. So I've been Aristophanes in that sense, preparing that. The other thing, I've got a new edition of Gogol's, the Russian author Gogol. I can never say his name right. Dead Souls, and this is I wanted it to basically understand the Ruska story. The Rus. What is it? What does it mean to be Russian? Try to understand the Russian question, and this is kind of because of what Vlad Laxer did in a video piece about the question of what is Russian identity and what is this thing, and the tension between, and using this point using the metaphor of the troika, the sleigh, and what is Russia, and wild riding and Russia and these horses. Again, this is a kind of use this metaphor of a chariot or a thing, a troika with two animals. This goes all the way back to the Platonic conception in Plato's Phaedrus about the soul, right? The soul and how this is working. And instead of being a division about the soul between thumos and reason and spiritedness and things like that, instead this is about the dimension of what's pulling at Russia. Is it to the Asia or to Europe? Is this tension of this? And I think that's a good question. I think that's something that maybe good. This is going to be the Duke. Well, maybe you should read Dugin. I did read Dugin. I have always had a hard problem with Dugin. It was also my problem with Vogelin. Even though I overcome Vogelin by, I still have a problem with Vogelin. His jargon interferes, and sometimes you have to kind of escape the jargon and get beyond the jargon to understand the brilliant insight that is in Vogelin. In Dugin, I don't see anything underneath. It's empty. It's Michael Milliman, who I respect, who really thinks Dugin is genius. I'm not as convinced. I look at Dugin and I see a fraud. I see a kind of a man who takes these great thinkers and expropriates them in a way and uses them in a way, but inconsistently. I think if Heidegger confronted Dugin, he would be saying, "Oh, no." With that line from T.S. Eliot, "A woman come and goes," speaking of Michelangelo, I think they do not sing to me at the end of it, right? Her singing each to each. You not see that from Love Song of Alfred Prophet. I'm going to use that metaphor. If Dugin is quoting Heidegger and using Heidegger's language and Heidegger's metaphors and things to make an argument, and Heidegger was sitting here saying, "I'm sorry, no, I'm not singing to you like this. This is not how I meant. This is not what I mean by that at all. Not at all." That is not what I meant by that line from Eliot. Just scrubs up and grabs me when I think of Dugin in that sense. That I do not. In Heidegger, people will say, "Well, you have not really read it." I have so read it. I read the book on Heidegger. It's the earlier book on Heidegger, and I tried reading Fourth Political Theory. It's just hard. It is just not. I just don't buy it. It just doesn't. It's not persuasive. You have to agree to the premises, and I'm sorry, I'm not buying the premises. They're not convincing, and they're not valid on their own. So how can I go any further if I don't, that's the whole problem with persuasion. If I don't buy the premises, the arguments are not going to be persuasive. You need to persuade at the level of the premise and that level, not just defend it, but just make an argument that this is plausible, and the plausibility aspect of it just, and there's even my rule about this is that there's better theories, and they're simpler, right? Occam's razor. Then go with the simpler theory. It's as long as it's valid. You don't why go. There's no need to get complexity if the more simpler answer is working and satisfying. Just to add levels of complexity and jargon and themes that don't necessarily really necessary to help have a better understanding of it. Or make it not otherwise better understanding. That's the argument is a deeper understanding. But why do you need to go that deep if others more clearly and more simply expressed ideas can do the same thing and do it better? Oh, but it's not really better. Okay, let's stop here in that moment. So the Google Russian question. My friend Jerzy Jahansky has a wonderful piece. I'm hoping it's going to be published. It's about Russia is not a civilized nation. It's going to be controversial. I think it's a very interesting argument. And by civilized means member of a civilization in that sense, that the civilization of the West. In other words, he's saying that Russia, the current vision of Russia, even though Russia itself, its original vision, saw itself as an attempt to become part of the West and define itself, particularly Catherine the Great, and things like that. But the current Russian regime under Putin is kind of embracing Eurasia, and it's Dugin as well, this whole Dugin question. So that's another aspect, and there's going to be some things of this. And what is the other thing I've been reading? Joshua Mitchell's. I reread Joshua Mitchell's American Awakening. I ordered a new copy because I didn't bring my copy with me, but I have the hardcover of the first edition, and someone told me that the paperback preface is worth having. So I forced myself to get a kind of copy. I got a copy, about to a good price, not that expensive. So I can get the thing. And I know Josh Mitchell. I met Josh Mitchell when he just finished his doctorate, getting his tenure job at Georgetown in the 1990s. He wrote a very good book on Luther and Tocqueville Luther, in a defense of kind of political philosophy, this interaction between the Reformation and classical political philosophy, and this idea of this early modern political philosophy, and how is this working? And therefore, as a fellow Protestant, I kind of appreciated the book in that sense. And he was being at Catholic University. I was shocked by that in that sense. Mitchell's book about the American Awakening is about the woke, and his ideas are religious. His thesis is not neo-Marxist. He would challenge someone like Jordan. This is why I would think a good interview would happen between Jordan Peterson and Josh Mitchell, arguing about where is the foundation of woke and this radical woke ideology. I think both Mitchell, and someone like the English historian David Starkey are more correct that this is a religious phenomenon. Woke is a kind of a radicalized, secularized religious phenomena taken to extreme, basically out of Puritanism in that sense. I think there is this character to it. And I think Josh Mitchell does a great job in that book, and that's why it's worth reading. The other book I started reading again is something I read in the 90s, and I kind of 90s, I was not persuaded by it, but in many ways he was a prophet. Jonathan Gray, John Gray's False Dawn, where he criticizes neoliberalism. Now, the problem was at the time, all of the wrong people praised it. It was like George Soros welcomed it, and everyone like this. And in the early 1990s, when George Soros said something nice, it was like, oh God, something's bad here. The wrong people welcomed it, and therefore kind of like you turned it off at first. But he was kind of weird. He went to environmentalism and kind of vague vegetarianism. I think maybe animal rights stuff, which I've always never been convinced by, and I've always been it has never hit me. I mean, I don't believe it, and I don't think it's right to abuse animals and mistreat them. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying is that the language of animal rights, this goes too far. And Gray was, you have to understand, he was part of the Thatcherite revolution, a thinker that supported Thatcher, then started in the 1990s to have doubts about Thatcher, right? Thinking that the revolution undid itself. And the neoliberal character, the neoliberals took over the Thatcherite vision that had a much more limited idea in that sense. The argument was that this was a reform, that Thatcher was really offering a reform, but it went too far and the neoliberal agenda took over. And I think this why Gray's book is worth looking at in that sense. So those, and the last book is, I'm starting to work again with my colleague, Trevor Shelley, on the question of care and love as a foundation for political theory. Reading, kind of responding again to Kojève's denial that fear and love are viable sources of authority. And it kind of reverberates to the article that Trevor and I wrote together that was published over at the Polish Political Science Yearbook about a year ago on what I call the kind of the forms of rule, forms of authority, forms of rule, the types of things that the characters of rule. I've done videos on it. You can check my YouTube channel. I've talked about this before, the forms of rule and things like that. I address it in the lecture course that I have, an introduction that I put on YouTube, the introduction to politics. The first 3 or 4 videos, the classes of that is on the question of political form and what does it mean and the forms of rule and the varieties of forms. So I'm not going to go into that. So, but I think we're going to look start out with kind of reacting to Kojève's analysis and denial that fear and love, and just focus on love and look at love and look at, and then that like reading C.S. Lewis's The Four Loves is a very good, interesting, very useful introduction to this question. The understanding of the 4 dimensions of love in that sense, the 4 different Greek meaning words that signify what we call love in English. The way certain meanings of words have greater variety and greater differentiation than, and therefore the Lewis book is a very good read to reread in that sense. Love is care, love is kind of concern of everyday concerns, sorge. Love is fatherly care as an agape, and the fatherly or paternal care, and that's agape. And then as love of erotic desire of want, of desire, of want, that has sexual and also beyond sexual, even intellectual content as philosophy. The desire to know, right? The desire to possess. Its desire is both at the level of man by the lust and sexual impulse of man, but also his social and political nature as well, and as also his intellectual curiosity, the desire to know and to grasp. All of these things are kind of tied into eros. And then last but not least is philia, right? Friendship. So that's a good thing. I might do a video, a future video on that aspect. Again, I'm mixing kind of what I'm going to do in the future of this. So that's my reading for what I've done this week in that sense. The future stuff, again, I think I'm going to do a video. I think you'll be seeing right now the wrapping up of basically research methods of political science. I'm going to be doing that. We started that, looking through it, going through it, and kind of looking at it. It's kind of a basic, like this reflection of this. I did this kind of as a kind of student service in that sense to see what that is. The future other videos I'm going to be doing, like I said, I've started. It's not going to. It's been the first issue has been. When I get back to Warsaw, I will start recording the remaining parts of Schmidt's parliamentary book. I'll be looking at, and then also I'll be looking at Rousseau's social contract. So that's going to be my kind of what I'm going to be doing. But I'm thinking about maybe even going to do something on the 4 loves. Again, looking at this question of philia, friendship, and look at friendship, and that's a discussion. So that's something I might look at. Look at book 6 of the Ethics, and due to book 6 of the Aristotle's Ethics is what I did in its forthcoming on Plato's book 1. I see people coming and go, people coming going on the thing, and not really staying. So it's not really that interesting in that sense. Because that's my future in that plans. And I'm going to be doing my article, like I said, future, trying to get some articles done and get some writing done this fall. In September, I have a couple things like this. We'll see what happens. And so that is some questions. Now, the third part of the thing on my list. There's been some questions, okay? I had a couple questions on a post of one of the videos last week about Ukraine. I don't like answering, but I don't want to do a political channel like this. I know there's a lot of people here, kind of part of what I call the new, maybe even alt-right, new right. I'm not going to say this. I'm not going to completely dismiss you. I think you guys have a valid point. I understand it. I navigate many of the path. I call myself a reactionary, not really a conservative ink type myself. I understand these things, but some directions of the alt-right, I'm not. I mean, I don't call it alt-right anymore. It's just the alternative right. I'm not willing to go down because I think they're kind of dead ends. There may be some wisdom to get some things, but some things there's no wisdom to get. I don't think, although I object to the neoliberal world and everything it stands for, and I think it's an anathema and destructive to human nature, but some aspects on the radical right are just as evil and just as evil, if not more evil, and less humane and as destructive. So, I mean, it's like, but you're going to be you're a liberal man like all those. No, I think, and this is where I kind of agree with the new right in that sense, the outright, that some of the old solutions are no longer viable because they're dead, they're meaningless, their meaning has been destroyed and lost, and you can't beating a dead horse like the Reagan myth, day and morning in America. Okay, it's a good nostalgia, but there's nothing there. And that's, there's a criticism of that. What is the real alternative? What is the real solution? What are we going to be doing? What is the dirty work? How are you going to, in order to achieve the restoration, what are you willing to do and what needs must be done? And you have the desire or the will to accomplish it or not. And I think this is a fair question that I think we need to answer. And that the traditional answer that I see among what we call conservative ink, and also among some of the, the Daily Wire crowd. Sometimes I like what they say, but then sometimes I just get turned off because I think it's this con job. It's like you're selling me something. You're trying to sell me something, and I don't want. You're selling it to me because you're talking to me, trying to get me to think you're going to really do something, but you're not. Right? You're not. And you want to capture us and make us follow you down the primrose path to do nothing and to accept our situation. So okay, one of the questions about this was about, someone asked me about Maiden 2014. Was it real? Was it authentic or legitimate? And my response is that, I see him send an email. It says all revolutions are not legally legitimate in that sense. That's the whole point, right? And the law is always, the regime favors the regime. Its law is always defined. The law is what the regime says it is in its fundamental sense. And that's why, if you try to understand this legal legitimacy as a legality issue, that leads us to a problem in the sense that that's why Schmitt's legalism and legitimacy is very interesting, because Schmitt distinguishes between legality of a thing versus the legal construction of making it right versus the legitimacy, which he understands as the people's willing or the sovereign's consent to something. And even in this way, it's not the question who's the sovereign here is the people. But another question was authentic. I would argue yes. I mean, I'm sorry. I've been working here. I've been teaching. I taught Ukrainian students. When I was teaching at Lazarski, I quit teaching in 2017 because I got a sabbatical, and I was told if I take the sabbatical, I was teaching at Warsaw University, but I got a sabbatical from Warsaw University. Then I was told that if I took the sabbatical, I couldn't teach anything anywhere else, in America maybe. But but I couldn't be teaching at another Polish institution. And I had to tell my Nazarski, I said, I can't teach it. I'm going to do it. What if you go? We're not going to hire you back. And to be honest, it wasn't. I kind of missed Chris and some of the teachers there, but the paperwork of the British schools that they cooperated with was just slavish and demeaning. And I kind of so I didn't really want to go back in that sense. It was not that much money. And yes, I could have used the money in that sense, but that's so. But I even at Washington University, I had locked up when I was teaching until around the same time, the year before, 2015. I stopped teaching at the International Relations Department. They had a new rule that you couldn't, if you were employed by Washington University, you couldn't be hired part-time from other departments. You had to be, all that stuff must come through the university system. So therefore, I kind of stopped teaching it there. But I was teaching, even at my department, we have a lot of Ukrainian students. And so therefore, I've had over 20 years of dealing with Ukrainian students. I had many students who went back to Maidan and were active in the Maidan protests. And what was Maidan really about in that sense was not about a CIA plot. The CIA plot of Victoria Nolan, or, they caught her on the phone. Come on, I mean, that's almost evidence that this must be a joke. Because I don't, Vicky Nolan was a moron to talk anything, not to realize that you're using your private phone in a combat zone. This is how stupid moron she is. That's why she's not really touched, and she has no real operational control. She might make policy, but come on, no one seriously ever thinks that she's really kind of in charge of anything in that radical sense. She makes policy and she represents policy, and she summarizes it and it tries to advocate for it. But she wasn't some mastermind pulling the thing. She was just bragging to another mid-level, mid to senior, what do you call high level, not super high level, but intermediate level bureaucrat to another one at another organization is bragging about, I have so much power, I can do this, we're going to do that. That's just bullshit. This is the kind of bullshit anyone who's worked with government officials who have no real authority knows how they engage. So this is silly in that sense. When that was intercepted, I said, that's proof. No, it isn't. It's only proof that she's, this woman had, if she was really discussing things like that, she would be in jail. Because it would be a blatant violation of security protocols. She would be fired. That the fact that she wasn't fired, it wasn't a real issue. Come on, let's understand. But she's part of the Clinton things, and I got to fire. Yes, you do. If you, at a mid-level, only people at the higher level can fuck up and have no consequences. You have to be high level. 4-star generals and 3-star generals, the big guys, they have no consequences. But mid-level guys, you fuck something like that up, you're gone. And particularly if you did something like that, you're just gone. They'll get rid of you. They'll fire you from the position. And they kept her in the State Department. Even Trump couldn't get rid of her in that sense, right? So, because she was permanent civil service. As long as she didn't do anything really wrong and violated the law, she was untouchable. And this is what's wrong. The law is weirdly written in that sense. Therefore, if it was a real plot, she'd have the people, all the FBI guys who were really involved in stuff, who got caught in the IG report, resigned, retired, ran away. So Maidan was more than it was not. It was really, as I say, an interesting phenomena of the building of a civil consciousness. That the young wanted to be the young Ukrainian young, whether they ethnic Ukrainian, ethnic Tatar, or anyone under 30, really no longer wanted to be part of the Soviet world, the world dominated by Russia. They wanted, and this is out of here. This is why all of the Eastern European countries, even though they fear and they don't like the regulation coming from Brussels, still rather be part of the EU than be under the thumb of Moscow. This is the thing that and anyone who thinks Moscow is a champion of traditional values. Come on, what cocaine are you smoking? Please, you're not being serious. I'm sorry. This is not Trump. I mean, not Trump. Okay, you're going to see. You're accusing Trump and Putin being buddies. No. Trump is a nationalist. Trump's an American nationalist in a sense. Putin is not a nationalist. His idea of Ruski Mir, or the Russian idea that he really now it's not a very good vision. It's kind of more like I'm the boss, I'm the E-man. Putin is not some intellectual who's understanding these things. He doesn't really read Dugin. I don't think this is what it's. I think there's been an overstatement. I think many people have corrected me. I originally thought Dugin had influence in this because of their common family backgrounds of being tied to the KGB that they were. But no, that's not here and that's not there. So the formation of this Ukrainian identity, which was European oriented, they see themselves, the young does not want to be part of a Russia. So when the ethnic Russian president who defeated the Ukrainian ethnic president guy, Orange Revolution president guy, I forget the name, but Lukashenko, when he won that election because he promised he criticized the previous administration for not being effective negotiating with Europe. So he wasn't saying, I'm going to make a Russian, I'm going to return you to Russia. He was saying, I'm going to help you get to Europe. That's why they voted for him. And when he started to all of a sudden kind of back away from when he unsigned the EU agreement protocol about this. This is when he created that. In other words, he betrayed his electoral promise. This is the thing. He betrayed it. It would have been like if Trump, once he got into office, all of a sudden welcomed all the Mexicans into America. Okay. It would have been like that. I mean, it would be an open betrayal and this is why the young revolted the way they did. And what happened was the fearing, like all authoritarian or quasi-authoritarian leaders, and crooks, let's be honest, most of the Ukrainian regime was still always Russian oligarchic ruled in a sense, and their buddies, kind of a buddy system of oligarchs, and they didn't like the fact that he was being threatened. They used the security services to violently crack down on the protesters. And what this did is this radicalized everyone. This was the boss. Like I said, this was the boss. What happened at Maidan was the Boston Massacre, Boston Tea Party, Lexington and Concord, and Bunker Hill all rolled in one. The Bunker Hill defeat was the capture of Crimea and the seizing of Donbass and Luhansk. And the Ukrainians are sworn in. And what saved them was not the Ukrainian army, because it wasn't ready to do anything. It was broken. It was a completely broken instrument. What saved them was the citizen militias, the Minutemen of Ukraine. Some of those Minutemen are thugs. Like any kind of volunteer thing away, you're going to have people on, good people and bad people. Skin-headed neo-Nazi soccer hooligans. This is Azov origins, but they changed over time in that sense. We should condemn it. You have to understand this. This is what the reality of this is, and this is so. Therefore, you have to understand this as a political event made in that sense. And is it legitimate? Yes, it's legitimate in the sense that you see the origins of a nation, building of a civic identity. You see this in that sense. And I think this is, as a political scientist, it shows me that's good. And this is why I think. People saying, oh, this is just another forever war. Look how much America invested in Afghanistan and Iraq, and we spent billions of dollars. What happened? They fell apart. It's waste. We're going to be doing the same thing. We're giving all this money, and all that money was mismanaged there. And it's going to be just, all these corrupt oligarchs are just going to steal the money like those people did. No. Difference was their leadership stayed and fought, whereas in Afghanistan and Iraq, they ran or collaborated. So, I mean, this is the difference in this fundamental sense, and I think that's the good thing, and that's the response. I didn't want to go down this road. I want to talk about the question of Prigozhin for the short time, because I think that's an interesting thing. I think Prigozhin's death, and this is my fourth thing on the list, Vlad the Bad and the Night of the Long Knives. That's well, yes, it was. It was. I mean, look at all the evidence suggests right now that it was not a bomb in the plane. It was the photographic evidence suggests those contrails, and that's typical of air defense. He was shot down, and this was kind of poetic justice, since during the march to Moscow, he shot down a couple of Russian Ministry of Defense airplanes and knocked out a general too, and leadership of that. This was kind of a revenge, Vlad's revenge. You could take. He was in a situation at the time. He's no longer vulnerable. He's consolidating, and like Vlad felt, Vlad at the thing was kind of weak. He would look pathetic when at his statement at the day of the insurrection. He looked like he was as other people have said, looks like a crybaby in that sense, and I think he's right about that. I think he was weak. He ran away. Unlike Vladimir Zelensky, who stayed in the fight. Vladimir Putin ran away from Moscow and hid in the safety of security. This is a kind of a symbolic and weakness, and that he made a deal. That was a deal that prevented the thing. And then what happened was that when all of a sudden when the time was right, Putin then got rid of him. And this is both useful and not useful to this. But now go to the A. One of my readers and one of my put things on it talking, oh, have you gotten Parvini's academic agent's new book? And I go, I did this already. It's Prophets of Doom. I have not gotten it yet. I will probably order. I haven't put my order in yet. I didn't know it was available. I might have trouble ordering it because it's Societas is the publisher, so I'm not sure. Well, maybe it'll probably be on Amazon PL. I'll probably order it. But this is part of what I call AA's black pill. I'm going to read the book. I'm going to get it. But I'm not going to be convinced by it, because I think the problem with all these prophets of doom is you have to understand what they are doing. They're not really prophets of doom. These people who he points to are people, though they see despair and dismay, but they're just looking at a phenomena of what they see the evidence is leading them to, and this is what's going to happen. And what by presenting it as dark as you do, there's two ways you can do it. You can look at a dark thing like this, and you can say, "Ooh, it's inevitable. I can't change it. It's inevitable, and we have to all suffer through this, and we have to go through this and we might as well just Benedict option this in the sense that we just might as well kind of try to survive and stay within our little hermit communities and survive and try to outlast the outcome to a situation where it's more enough time that our future generations will come out surviving it, and we will come out and maybe restart civilization." That's one way to look at it. Second thing is it's a scare. It's a scare the hell out of you, so you take action to prevent it and reform. So you take it as a black pill, or you take it as a chance, opportunity to achieve something, to do something that you can change it. And I think this leads us to I think in many ways, this point here leads me to the second point, Oliver Anthony phenomena that's happened this past week. I mean, out of the past week, this guy from nowhere, unemployed, basically an high school dropout GED guy from North Carolina and Virginia area, Virginia, North Carolina, using his grandpa's name, not his really own, different name. He's kind of a, working class guy who's been like this, and like all these working class guys, like I used to know, is they have no politics. They have no political real position in this thing. They just have kind of they have a little bit of 9/11 truther in them. That, this is the people who voted for Ross Perot. This is even the people who kind of Trump gravitated towards. But they don't like partisan politics. They don't consider themselves right wing, and they don't consider themselves left wing. They think they have more in common with the left in that sense, because they see themselves as the common man against the elite. But and I can see this recent video by Oliver Anthony, when he took today's video, in fact, where he kind of criticized the conservatives from embracing his music. And this is not, and he was joking that how the very people whom he's kind of targeting, that the Republican convention, are part of the people north of Richmond that he's criticizing. Again, I think that's right. I think we have to understand that many of the deep state, or what people call the deep state, or the this kind of bipolar, and this is a common man's position. I see this idea that there is this uniparty of Democrats and Republicans who work against the interest of agree on the neoliberal agenda against the common man. This is something that even AA kind of buys and agrees with. I think it's there, but I think it's over. You can't. It's not something this reducible. It is that they disagree. It's kind of their interests overlap on certain areas, so therefore they all agree to do it. But their interests also divide in other areas, and therefore they are fighting each other. They fight, and they understand by fighting each other, they keep the system rigged so that they can or prime to prevent any alternative to them. And I think this is what Anthony was pointing to, but. This is, I think he doesn't. This is a point when the messenger may not even understand what he's doing. I think he's wrong. His intention is not political. It's basically spiritual. It's about trying to look at how horrible the world is, and how this is really about people suffering and pain and the struggling with the situation of the world as it is. It's not. And he said, but it's not about Joe Biden. But in a way, it is. This is the blindness, I think, of the artist in that sense. This is where an artist like him, and a very uneducated person like him, doesn't understand. He only understands the kind of, and I think this is right in this sense. He's just an ordinary guy, and he understands it. He doesn't really see the structure. He sees a lot of he can see the forces working against him, and the system kind of crushing him and destroying it, and it sees it's rigged, and it's offended by it. And he looks at the world and doesn't think of a future of it. And this is dark. This is the black pill in that sense. But his turning is to salvation. He turns to the God. That's the uniqueness. This is when I looked at Albert Anthony, I hear an Old Testament prophet in that sense. Not a prophet of doom, but a prophet of redemption and hope. It's unpolitical. Yes, it's unpolitical. It is unpolitical. I think he is right. How he understands what he's doing, it's about individual salvation and individual trying to redemption, and trying to how we have more in common, and where it can over. He uses the people say some of my right wing friends criticize him for using the boomer language of our diversity is our strength. Now, how working people understand that is different than how the intellectuals understand this. The intellectuals understand it as multiculturalism, and that there's no voice, there's no common, there's only this diversity. It's cultural relativism in the sense. You have these epochs of communities who have nothing and no way to communicate, nothing to share in common, so therefore there's only permanent agitation. This is not what Anthony means about that. What Anthony means about is that phrase that is tied on every American dollar, tied pluribus union. In many, there's one. Okay, it's that this is how diversity is the strength. Diversity is our strength, not because we're different and we're separate and we're at war with each other and my versus you and conflict. It's no. We are different, but we share something in common, and that thing in common is our love of our country and our identity of our things. But that's kind of boomerism, man. That's old-fashioned. But no, that's the problem. This is why it is kind of, in a sense, simple. This is the simple conception. This is the biblical kind of an Old Testament Christianity that understands it this way. This is not a political solution. This is a way that the people in the communities themselves can find the solution. And this is something the Founding Fathers envisioned, and I think argue in the sense that the Founding Fathers didn't think the federal government is going to solve problems. It's, in other words, power is not unlimited. Power is only, if you give something too much power, it'll collapse. I mean, that's the great lesson of Montesquieu. If you followed my Montesquieu reading of Spirit of Laws, you'd know that Montesquieu is warning about too much power, too much control, too much thing. Too much power destroys. You need it's kind of a Pareto optimality level of how much power you need for the thing you need to achieve. If you go too much, then it collapses on itself. You can't accomplish it. If you try to control too much, it will not. You'll control nothing. If you don't control enough, it won't be effective. But it won't do it. You'll fail if you do it too little, or if you fail if you have too much. You have to have the right amount of power and the right amount of scope and the right scope of doing things. The founders understood this. This is why they limited federal power, the national government, the federal union, to national security, defense, trade, commerce, and things like that, and left the policing and morals and education aspect and religion even to the states. But what we've done was we reversed that. We've nationalized. We put a one-size-fit-all culture on America. And this is what's the problem with this. It's the imposing of a unitary monetary system, unitary system of uniformity throughout everything, which you have to have every community has to believe the same thing. In other words, this one size fit all America. And this is not diversity is our strength. Our diverse communities. It's by having diverse communities who are self-governing. That is the dimension that this. I don't think Anthony has understanding about this. This is why he's right about how people get together and how to do this like this. And I think this is the power of the message. This is the healing aspect, the atonement aspect of what he's doing there, and why I think this is important. And this is why this is a message political. And a political leader who sees this and sees its power and fails to understand this is a bad political actor. Doesn't have the judgment to understand the opportunity that this is. This is an opportunity. This is an opportunity that you can redirect America in a way that I think it wants and do it from the bottom up. This is the thing, trying to accomplish everything from the top down and only ends up in things never getting done. How you change it is change it by one school. But the problem is you have the left and the powers of the be controlling the national courts and the national things, and they will use that top-down power to crush. And therefore, this is the whole point, right? This is unable. You can't do this. You can't have the bottom-up thing. No, you can still try. You can still do. I think their power will crumble. I think this is the inevitability. This is the power of Scripture in that sense. This is the power of the song in that sense. The power of God in the sense is the power of the omnipotence of God's mercy and God's love. Is it's omnipotent that the evil will not, bad doers will not win in the end. They will. That's why he's quoting of that verse of Psalm 37 at the beginning of his concert, was a very powerful message about the wicked doers, those who do evil, those who are going to be the powerful and the vain, who puts themselves in their pride above everyone else. And I think that is the real significance of why Anthony has been power, and he hits a home. And I kind of sympathize with him in the saying that he feels that he's being used by the right and criticized by the left because he's thinking, well, maybe because these guys like me, therefore the left is attacking me because of this. And I'm not. I'm neither of you guys. And I understand that. Okay, yes, but I'm sorry, Anthony. And you're in the shithole now. You're going to be a target because the forces that be. You don't like the people who are going to. You look at them and you look at them kind of suspicious. They don't believe them because they're nothing like me. But isn't that your whole point? Then people who are not like you going to be people like you, people like me. Well, maybe those people you don't think are like you are really like you. And it's not that they like you, but they might have things in common with you. They might have things that they agree with you about. That you can, this is the whole nature of politics. We agree to cooperate. We agree to collaborate. We agree to share and achieve things in common where we think we will benefit from, right? And I think this is where maybe he doesn't understand his own message in a great degree. I don't criticize him for this. I don't expect him to. This is not, he's the messenger. He's the messenger. He's not the message. He's the messenger. The message is way beyond him. It is. I think, in many ways, and this is where I'm going to sound weird to people. It is God in that sense. It is the force. It is the spirit in this that's moving him. He's not speaking because it is. No, I mean, this is a guy who went from nowhere to on the charts as much high as he is and being able to touch somebody. This is something super phenomenal. This charisma. It's not even a personal charisma in that sense. His charisma is his message in that sense. He's just ordinary. He just looks ordinary, but the message, the things he says and sings about his pain is so authentic. He's authentic in the sense, and by the real, you can feel how the voice and the sound and the feelings are just displayed. And this is the power of it in that sense. This is why I think it is more than this, and this is why this is why I don't buy the Parvini's "It's doomed." There's more. There's that line from Shakespeare. There's more in heaven and earth than has dreamt in your philosophy, Horatio. Right? That there is more in heaven and earth than I dreamed in your philosophy. AA. This is the problem. I think this is why he is. This is the theological, political question. This is the God question in that sense. And I think this is the difference between hope and despair. If it's despair, you have no hope. You can. It's gone. It's nothing. There's no atonement. This is the whole point. This is what's interesting about modern. The modern woke movement. It's without atonement. There's only. There's only sin and guilt, but no forgiveness and no atonement. The atonement is endless, never-ending, and conscious. I think Joshua Mitchell does a fantastic job elaborating this. So I did all my topics. I'm at my end. I'm at my 50-point minutes, and I think we haven't had the color screen and the computer screen go. But you want to say, well, okay, what about Vlad the Bad? I kind of did it out of order. I apologize. But I don't want to forget something. Today, Trump photograph, the mugshot. It's real. This is what they do, and I'm not going to say that Trump has flaws. I'm not going to say that Trump is not a perfect person. He's a flawed man. He's hard, and he has bad judgments. He's vain. He's still too self-centered, too me-affixed, narcissistic. True. Now, all leaders are narcissistic to some degree. All leaders are vain. All things are kind of psychopathic, and this is the truth. Anyone who studies the evolution of psychology and psychology of personality knows this. This degree, but there's an element that Trump does care. This is the weird thing. He cares about it. Of course, he's not going to do it. His level of care may not be doing things, but he has this ability. And this is something where I have friends. I have lots of friends who get mad at me still saying, why come you like Trump still? Don't you know that Ron DeSantis is our hero? DeSantis accomplished and Trump didn't. Trump betrayed us by doing vaccines and doing the COVID lockdown. I said, but Trump had no choice. I feel bad for Trump because he was basically in a situation if he didn't do it, he would have been blamed. And then he was being told by every expert, everyone who's all the major experts, is going to be hundreds of. If you didn't do anything, there'd be hundreds of millions of dead Americans. Tens and 50, 100, a million dead Americans, and you be responsible. And and given his own phobias about germs, it was, and the fact that he kind of got quickly, but then, was lucky to get doctors who gave him a treatment that helped, allowed him to recover. And then he kind of saw the truth. In other words, he didn't understand the system was that broke. He thought that some people would actually do the right thing. These officials would do the right things. And he didn't see how bad and broken the system was in that sense. And I think many ways how COVID went out and the way he was betrayed by his advising teams and he's kind of dependence on them. Oh, he shouldn't have listened. Ron DeSantis, okay. My problem is Ron doesn't look authentic. He just doesn't. Look at his hand. He looked at everyone before he rose his hand about that. He just looked at it. See, he had to hesitate on that. I would have respected him more if he didn't put his hand up. if he didn't put his hand up, he would have been more respectable. But V put his okay, and everyone else kind of hesitated for a second, but Ron hesitated longer. It looks like he's always calculating the advantage of doing something, and that's this is what anyone who knows retail politics will tell you. He's better when he's confronted. He's better when there's a confrontation. He's a good lawyer. He's a confrontational actor. So he responds to journalists and do like this. He can give a speech, powerful speech, but at the same time, he doesn't connect with you, the speaker. There's a distance always with him. In social retail politics, you look at him, he doesn't invest in you closely. He just looks at far distant. Where Trump really does the retail politics as good as Clinton did. Bill Clinton, he goes up there and feels your pain. He expects you. This is an aspect of retail politics that people don't understand and people don't. And I think this is what there was. And he constantly made mistakes. But Trump made mistakes also. Yeah, Trump did make mistakes. And many of them hurt Trump. And Trump keeps on doing these mistakes. But DeSantis really can't afford to make these mistakes in the way he does it. And the listless vessels remark was really that was on the par of Hillary's deplorable remarks, Biden's dangerous, ultra MAGA disaster, this unhinged portrayal of your opponent's supporters as unworthy and unhuman. Obama's comment about the clutch their Bibles and their guns, or even Mitch Romney's infamous comment about the 47%. Right? This is a very bad move politically against it. It attacks the very people whose need you're going to need to vote for, and he's thinking that this is hypocrisy of him. He tries to out Trump on the Trump right, on the right of the side, but then what he does is it belittles the people he's supposed to be trying to get the vote of. It's silly. But again, this is all about Trump's. Why am I talking about this? You say, "Oh, you're getting off stream. Why don't you?" I don't do politics usually. I mean, I'm a political junkie. I'm interested in these things. I'm a political scientist, so I teach American politics for students too. So I should be paying attention to these things. But the point of in our last couple minutes here is the thing that about the. This is why the Democrats, this Georgia County prosecutor, who's this black Democrat hack, who's distorting the law weaponizing the law and the criminal process to advance political agenda, is outrageous. This is a dangerous precedent. This is the killing of the Gracchi. Okay, in Rome, which really poisoned the well, and led why future tribunes would have to. If you're going to be a tribune of the people, you needed to have an army. Okay, this is why the Marsyas reforms gives that all of a sudden successful military men who through their campaigns bought armies of loyal supporters who paid them off with their campaign wealth, who could rely on them to protect them when they ran for off council or a tribute, which then would will turn civil factionalism into civil war. Okay, this is why that was the most outrageous thing. Remember, what is a that mug is basically to advertise persons whose faces that are not known, but it wouldn't have a number on it. This is the new way. You don't have numbers on it anymore. You just have a picture with the symbol of the state prosecute, the entity that's the county or the thing that's responsible that is taking the picture, and they use the digital. The number is digitally on there. It's not necessary. You put this thing in there like this, like they did in the old days. You don't need that. The computer, the cameras are so modern now. You don't need that. The cameras can take care of the number and the ID number and that stuff. So therefore, this is the why release it. In fact, it was leaked to CNN by someone at the prosecutor's office before it was leaked to the public, and CNN had their, look, we finally got him, we put him in jail. This is that Mueller video. Oh, Mueller was going to put him in the yellow suit. This is the sick, sadistic fetish of both the anti-Trump right and the anti-Trump left, of wanting, they just hate him so much that they want to just humiliate him and destroy him. This is the picture of that redheaded skank, with the the head of Trump, right, bloody head of Trump, like Cassandra, right, not Cassandra of Clementina of the Greek tragedy in that sense, or Medea, like a monster, wrathful, or fury, unhinged fury. This is the sad. This is the sad characteristic. This is the irrational fury that drives them mad. In a kind of the furies of the ancient Greeks, they're possessed by this. Trump, this was Trump arrangements. There's a fury in it, and I see there's moderate forms of this also. It's like, oh, Trump is always wrong. People say you're just a Trump fanatic. No, I know there's problems with Trump, but that the crazies go after the people who are, how people react to them reveal more about themselves than about Trump. And I think the photo, this is going to be a backfire. This is a political miscalculation it's not going to make, yes, it's going to help the Democrats to raise money on their own. Oh, this is going to this picture will turn off a lot of moderates and socket moms, but it's going to maybe activate people who look at this and look at the system, and particularly in the Black community and other places who were not necessarily pro-Trump, who might now see, oh my, he's a brother like us, the man's after him, so there must be something right about him if the man's after him, kind of idea. And if this is now going to be able to politically motivate these people who are needed for the Democratic Party to show up and vote, if these people either don't show up or vote for him, game fucking over for the Democrats. They can't fortify the election that much. If 20% more African Americans vote, either they go with him or the other, or I think it's going to be up to 40. 20% will go for him, and 20% will simply just not at all. Maybe they'll vote for the brother. Cornel West is kind of that weird way, right? But think about it, the no-name party and stuff like that. But that means Biden won't get those votes, and Democrats may not get those votes. Down-ticket Democrats, and you'll see it. This might affect them politically. So therefore, I think this is a stupid idea to do this. They think they get the idea that, we're going to satisfy the people who have this hatred of Trump. We'll be able to say, yeah, we brought right, we put him in jail, yay. But the backlash you've unleashed, the whirlwind you released, this is a precedent broken. You don't think now Republicans who in the future will now say, Democrats, hatred you. I mean, what Trump is being accused of doing, and the lawyers of Trump being accused by the Georgia case, every lawyer who helped Al Gore would be subject to that. Any lawyer that has helped any Democrat to fight an election issue, which they do, like even Hillary Clinton did in 2016. All those Democratic lawyers and lobbyists pushing those electoral college people to change their vote in 2016, 17, during those days before that. How is that any different? It ain't. And once you've set a precedent, this is okay, great. Now I'm going to do that to you. You think Democrats, you're not going to get thrown in jail now in the future? Oh, what goes around comes around. And this is going to, this is your stupidity by doing this. This is just because it made you feel good. This is the classic political error. This lacks all judgment. And I think this is really what's wrong in that sense. This is why this is wrong. And this is why, even though I might have serious issues with Trump, he's not a conservative. He was not a very conservative. Anyone who's talking about he's a conservative. No, he's not a conservative. But what he's saying is, look, America's going to hell. I need to solve these problems. And these problems are real problems. And this is why conservatives, people on the right, who need to deal with these issues. They don't. You're irrelevant. Okay, that's it. I'm over my 10 minutes. I don't want to go over this. I was going much longer than I thought I did. I pissed everyone off probably saying, well, you didn't really answer my question. What are you? You're just a boomer, man. I'm not a Gen Xer, okay? Old beginning Gen Xer. I'm at that cusp. I'm more Gen X than anything else. I lived the Gen X life, okay? I had my career destroyed and ruined because I had the wrong opinions. I suffered the effects of being a right-wing person in an academy before, it became popular to talk about this. Everyone I told me it was political correctness. It's not political. It was left-wing tyranny at the university, hegemony. Now it's more clear, but back then it was just as bad. I've been teaching over here in Europe for 20 years, or more than that, over 20 years since 99. I was teaching 99 in Slovakia, and it was this is I'm saying I've been here a long time, political refugee in that sense. I joke, academic of the American Academy. European universities are slowly becoming as bad as American, even in Southern Europe. The intellectual class has become this way, but that's neither here nor there. Well, that's it. I'm at 112. I wanted to stop this at 115, 112. If you have any comments, questions, please put them below. Maybe I'll see them. I did respond to people's questions. They didn't put on the thing like this, but they put them on some of the things. They asked me a thing about, was it about? The other thing I didn't talk. Someone put in there, and I might talk about it. Burnham CIA. Okay, I talked about this before. AA has to do a video about Burnham and the CIA. What does that mean? And about the reasons for this. Look at my neoconservative video. I kind of dealt with that issue. I might just do another video about that sometime. Maybe next time I talk, I'm not going to talk. It's going to be the next time we meet is the week I'm not here. So, but I might go do a video. I might do a video about that separately. But who knows how I'm doing. But I can do it in 3 minutes. What about James Burnham? James Burnham, he was a leftist. He was originally Trotsky's man. Okay? Go read his biography about him. He was a man of the left. He was not a Marxist, though. He believed in the kind of communism or early socialism of this thing. But he saw through it. He saw that the nature of the structure of the state structure or even the large scale model was not going to produce this, and that Trotsky was even himself problematic because Trotsky was kind of still believed in communism and the Soviet state in a way that Burnham kind of saw through. And then Burnham saw this through in his discussion of someone like Pareto, Vincent Pareto, economist. And Robert Michels. Michels was a leftist. Okay, these were men of the left or the liberal. Pareto was always a liberal. Moscow was more of a centrist right-winger, more right-winger. Moscow was a man of the left, Social Democratic Party, who became to the right, moved to the right. All of this Italian school people who saw this idea from Pareto's understanding of economics, saw there was a limit to power and how the structure. And why does Mr. Brain freeze. Burnham join work with the CIA, the origins, the beginning of the CIA. he was in the OSS, the old days OSS. So someone like Kendall too, the OSS, or the big staging of something, the version like the OSS, another version, the OCIA, so this you're dealing with Latin America, and the foundations of the CIA. Why did Burnham do this? And as the CIA was a liberal institution. It was also kind of a weird institution. The whole history of the CIA is worth the video in itself. The combination of left wingers, right, fearing of Nazism, communism, these people, but also there was, bringing all these these European intellectuals escaping Nazism, most of them Marxist, Frankfurt School. They became, and French Marxist, who joined up with the OSS and became their intellectual base, the behavioral base, the American behavioralists too, in that sense, and their progressivist bent. And the frat boys at Yale, and then the Irish and Catholic thugs that they brought in from the army and the military defense, the Irish and Italian, and also the Jewish working class guys, the Democrats, kind of the army brought in with them to kind of be the bodies that were in the OSS, kind of under the War Department control. Like MI5 is under, Home Secretary, MI6 is the OSS was kind of a War Department creation in that sense. The CIA became more of the 1947 creation of the CIA, 47, 48 creation of CIA, was more of a kind of State Department controlled entity in that sense, like MI6. Burnham's control with this, that's not deep state. This is not the question of deep state. It was anti-communism. He was against communism. He saw the communists for what they were and opposed it. His position is that progressivism, communism was, and progressives were useful idiots of the communists, and that they were going to be destroyed. They needed to be destroyed. And he was and his position was that the managerial revolution. This was different. His anti-communism, his managerialism is not connected in this sense. His managerialism is a kind of critique of Marxism. Why he thought Marxist and Leninist vision of things was only going to create a managerial economy. It wasn't going to, and this is why he rejection of what he considered the naive position of the people who were going to ever be able to control the revolution in this sense, because the nature of power would always ensure that there'd be some kind of elite mechanism that would have to always manage it and control it. So Burnham's fundamental position here was two different. I think there's two different things. One was his managerialism he's as a man of the left, but then his anti-communism and against the totalitarian characteristic of communism. He opposed it, and why it needed to be fought. And this is what explains that. And this is what these things are. They're not essentially connected, but they are, in the sense that because he would argue that the reasons why we had to fight communism was that it was going to produce the communist and the communist world, or victory of the communists in this sense, would destroy all the other intermediate institutions. They would destroy their victory would ultimately undo. And in fact, that's the irony. They succeeded. They succeeded. They did not. The Soviet Union collapsed, but the communists succeeded in demoralizing the American institutions by creating the radical left in America, the progressive left, to the degree that the 1960s Vietnam movement, the radical anti-war left, the new left of the 1960s, and how they got in power and how they marched through the institutions and took it over and totally rechanged everything and demoralized the American nation and used the destruction of all the levels of local community, using the powers of business, government, law to destroy all the local communities and enforce a unification of a unitary system and the system that would then therefore prevent and then destroy the communities, destroy the entities, and therefore create mass society that could be easily more manipulated. by mass information and mass calculation. This is why Hannah Arendt's book, Origin of Totalitarianism, is something really worth reading. And this is why something like Eric Hoffer's True Believer is still worth reading to understand how the system works. Both Arendt and thing to understand the totalitarian mass system, creation of mass democracy, the mass. This is the anti-democratic. The mass is no longer people. They're just this mass organization where everyone is conglomerated and everyone is factionalized things. And they're just the group that can easily manipulate and turn against each other, manipulated and managed. And this is something even Schmidt talked about in his legitimacy and legality in that sense, and even in his parliamentarianism book. Well, that's it. If you have any comments or questions, please put it below. I'm now over. I'm 20 minutes over. I said, okay. Please put the questions and comments below and things you want me to talk about. If you want more further or Burnham or something like that, or something about, Prigozhin. I'm not going to do Dugin. I'm sorry. I'm not going to read Dugin. I mean, every time I do read Dugin, I just spend my time frustrated in that sense. And it's like, it's not frustrating that he doesn't, I just don't understand him in that sense. I just feel the jargon just blocks understanding. And that, so, I'll talk about things more and more in that sense, like that. Like it, share it. If you like the video, like the like button, share it with things, share it with your friends, share it around. If you didn't like it, thumb down it and say why in the comments, why you didn't like about it, why you did wrong. No, there's no blue video this time, thank God. It started to go blue and I kind of like, oh my God, what did I do? I stopped the video and started again. So that's why it's like a minute late. What else? You can follow me in the links below on social media, or if you want to follow my academic social media links and who I am as a scholar and things like that, they're below as well. You want to help me do what I do by becoming a Patreon or subscribe to it. Why do you keep on talking about this? Because no one's there and you're not doing anything. You're just selling this thing. And I say, if I keep on pointing to it, maybe someone will join it and say, a little bit help. Every little bit can help. And that's it. Again, I'll see you guys. See my videos coming up. We'll be still continuing for the next week. We'll be continuing going over what's his name, Ben Evers' book about methods of political science research on the first, I think it's on Friday, next Friday, which is the 1st of September. I will have a video next week. I won't have a video, but I have 2 videos put up there. And they'll be about, I think it's going to be book 1, 2 different things about book 1 of the Republic. Giving a taste of the rest of the videos of book 1 and the Republic next week, where I wrap up Ben Evers' book and do the book. You get 2 videos of that thing in the 3rd week. And then the week after that, I will start my the Schmidt and the Rousseau reading discussions. Well, that's it. Take care. We're at 20-something thing. I think that's enough for that way. There's not many people coming by here. They're on, they're off, they're on, they're off. I hope people watch it, and we'll see what it is. Take care. Bye-bye.